Chapter 51. Then, he sent his men to investigate her background. The ones who came back said that the girl's name was Hei-an, but he did not find out anything else. Can't find it? Xiaoyan did not believe that someone was stopping him from investigating this girl's background. Right now, he had to immediately call Gumo Cheng down. However, he would go later and let him finish watching the masked boys dance. Fuxin could not hold it anymore. She needed to go to the toilet first and then come back to watch Ming Xiao's performance. She was afraid that she would come back and the performance would be over, so she handed the phone back to Suanan. Anan, help me bid for it. Suanan took the phone and helped Fuxin continue filming. When Fuxin was walking up the stairs, she accidentally looked up. The man standing at the stairs was wearing a red suit, seriously watching Ming Xiao's performance. So shameless. Fuxin said in her heart. She rarely saw men wearing red suits. Xiaoyan lowered his head and saw a beautiful girl staring at him. Then, he heard her say, "You slut." Xiaoyan frowned when he heard this evaluation. From the position upstairs, he could see that Fuxin's collar was snow white. He smiled. "That's right, 34C. After Xiaoyan finished speaking, she held onto her chest and cursed again. "Scoundrel, you pervert. Aren't the men in gold-selling caves supposed to have very high standards? Why would they need a pervert?" When the forest grew up, there was everything. Fuxin glared at him fiercely, expressing her dissatisfaction. Xiaoyan looked at Fuxin's furious appearance and laughed even more. "Are you interested?" The girl downstairs was a bit younger, but she had a good figure. Since he hadn't found a partner to sleep with tonight, she might as well be the one. Fuxin did not understand and did not want to bother with this slut. In the bathroom, after Fuxin finished settling her needs, she smacked her face with water. The cool water instantly washed away the alcohol. Slowly, her mind cleared, and she thought of the man who had been standing at the top of the stairs on the second floor, as if she had seen him somewhere before. Fuxin flipped through her phone and found a photo of Xiaoyan and his girlfriend, zooming in. The face in the photo fit together with the man on the second floor just now. She liked the internet, she liked gossip, and she was particularly interested in the fun between playboys and celebrities. Damn, this is Xiaoyan. In Peace City, Xiaoyan was absolutely famous. It was like changing into new clothes every day. Sometimes, the women he brought out in the morning were different from the women he brought out to a hotel in the evening. There are so many women, I'm not afraid of getting sick. As Fuxin said this, she closed the web page in disdain. Brother is still the best. He wouldn't casually bring back his sister-in-law. Wait a minute, Fuxin remembered something else. Xiaoyan was a close friend of Gumo Cheng, so he might be able to find Gumo Cheng wherever he was. The last time her brother said Xiaoyan was investigating the situation at the racetrack, he must have been helping Gumo Cheng. It can't be that bad. Gumo Cheng is also in Gold Selling Cave today, right? Thinking about it this way, Fuxin sobered up. She immediately ran out of the bathroom and headed towards the dance floor. Passing by the stairs on the second floor, she looked up. Xiaoyan was no longer there. Xiaoyan wouldn't look for Gumo Cheng. He could see Anan from where he stood. It's bad, it's bad. If Anan gets caught, she's dead for sure. Gumo Cheng wanted an obedient wife. Her Anan knew everything except that she was disobedient. Anan, run. Fuxin walked in front of Suanan and said. Suanan was taking pictures with her phone, asking puzzledly, "Why run?" "Your husband is coming," Fuxin said anxiously. "Hubby?" Suanan couldn't react in time. "Gumo Cheng, your husband, Gumo Cheng." Fuxin did not care anymore as she dragged Suanan and explained. "Just now I saw Xiaoyan when I was going to the toilet." "Who is Xiaoyan?" Suanan asked. The name sounded familiar. "Your husband's best friend." Fuxin suspected that Gumo Cheng and Xiaoyan were a pair, or perhaps it could be said that Gumo Cheng was defending Xiaoyan like Jade. It couldn't be blamed on Fuxin's thinking. After all, Gumo Cheng didn't have a woman by his side for so many years, so she would often switch theories. Gumo Cheng did not like women, but he liked men. The reason why Xiaoyan switched women so often was because he used women to hide his true sexual orientation. There were many articles online concerning Gumo Cheng and Xiaoyan. From the hints of their daily habits, it could be said that they were a pair. Xiaoyan? Suanan finally remembered. It was Gumo Cheng's friend. "You saw Gumo Cheng?" Hearing that Gumo Cheng was present, Suanan quickened her pace. "Nope," Fuxin replied, "but since Xiaoyan is here, then Gumo Cheng must be as well." While speaking, Fuxin felt that it was necessary to tell Suanan about the relationship between Xiaoyan and Gumo Cheng. She pulled Suanan to a corner and paused for a moment. She wanted to say something but was afraid of offending Suanan. "Anan." "Yes," Suanan replied, curious as to what Fuxin wanted to say. "Gumo Cheng and Xiaoyan have a different relationship. They are a pair." With that, Fuxin looked at Suanan. Suanan stared blankly for a moment before laughing out loud. She didn't know what Xiaoxin was thinking in her head. How could Gumo Cheng possibly be with Xiaoyan? "Xiaoxin, read fewer of those novels of yours." How could Gumo Cheng be a match for Xiaoyan? Last night, she had even been played twice by Gumo Cheng. "Really?" Fuxin said softly. An article on the internet exposed the relationship between Gumo Cheng and Xiaoyan. It even said that Gumo Cheng didn't look for a woman for so many years because of Xiaoyan. Suanan did not know why Gumo Cheng avoided women for so many years, but it was definitely not because of Xiaoyan. Seeing that Suanan did not believe her, Fuxin pulled her hand and walked back. If you don't believe me, let's go back and see. Gumo Cheng, I found the girl that crashed into your car, Xiaoyan said to Gumo Cheng, who was lying on the sofa and drinking. Gumo Cheng looked up at Xiaoyan and couldn't remember what he was talking about for a moment. The one who gave you the thumbs up. With that, Gumo Cheng remembered and lightly replied, downstairs. That's the one who gave second brother a thumbs up when she bumped into his car? Xiaoyan had told Han Longyi about this before and kept saying that the girl's courage was commendable. Yes, downstairs. Let's go take a look. Han Longyi stood up first and walked toward the door. Gumo Cheng extinguished the cigarette in his hand, stood up slowly, and followed him out. Gumo Cheng and the other two walked to the stairs on the second floor. They followed the direction that Xiaoyan was pointing in, but they did not see any girl. Where? Xiaoyan asked in confusion. She was standing there just a moment ago, but in the time it took to turn around, she was gone. Chapter 52. Didn't you say that the girl is here? Why is she gone? Han Longyi asked. Could it be the girl that you saw saying that she was the one who crashed into second brother's car? I really saw her, Xiaoyan said, walking over with a fawning smile. Second brother? She was really here just now. Yes, Gumo Cheng replied. He was not really interested. His gaze fell on the dancing boy, who obviously attracted his attention even more with his underpants on. Without her, Xiaoyan felt that he had lost a lot of face. When he got down, the manager of the gold-selling cave walked over. Xiaoye, go and block the door for Laozi, block the girl in leather. Yes, Xiaoyan didn't believe that his territory couldn't hold a girl back. If not for Gumo Cheng coming down personally to look for her, she would have been captured long ago. Get someone to bring him here. Gumo Cheng stared at Gu Ziming, who was looking for someone after dancing. Xiaoyan looked at the boy and said in shock, Second brother, you have such a heavy taste. Gumo Cheng's face turned cold as he glared at him. Xiaoyan was not afraid of death. He was the only one who chuckled after seeing Gumo Cheng's cold face. Don't worry, I won't tell sister-in-law. Han Longyi, who was at the side, also laughed. Xiaoyan's imagination was really rich. Can't you see? The dancing boy is Ziming. After he finished speaking, he turned around and followed Gumo Cheng upstairs. Xiaoyan looked down at Gu Ziming again. No wonder he looked so familiar. It was the Gu family's little ancestor. The little ancestor was really unlucky to be able to run into Gumo Cheng, this great Buddha again. Fortunately, Suanan and Fuxin were fast. As soon as they left the gold-selling cave's gate, Xiaoyan's men stood at the entrance to check on the guests. As long as it was a woman wearing leather clothes, they would all be stopped. And I'm right? Gumo Cheng and Xiaoyan are really together. They stood together. Fuxin brought Suanan back, and they hid in a corner when they saw Xiaoyan and the others coming out. When Suanan saw Gumo Cheng's face, she immediately turned and ran, but even if Fuxin called out to her, she could not even shout out. It really was the rat who saw the cat. Xiaoxin, I'll go back first, Suanan said. Fuxin thought that Suanan had suffered a blow when she saw Gumo Cheng and Xiaoyan together, so she patted Suanan's shoulders and said, Anan, pretend you didn't see anything when you go back. Please don't ask Gumo Cheng about this. Xiaoxin, you misunderstand. Suanan wanted to explain to Fuxin about Gumo Cheng's sexual orientation, but once she said that, Xiaoxin would definitely ask her how she knew. After that, she would ask about how she rolled up the bed with Gumo Cheng, and Xiaoxin would then ask them how they rolled off it. There were too many questions based on Xiaoxin, and time was of the essence. Suanan decided to let Xiaoxin think randomly first. Her words would not reach Gumo Cheng anyway. Xiaoxin, I'm going back. We'll meet again next time. With that, Suanan went to Fuxin's car and changed her clothes. She then took off the wig on her head and returned it to Fuxin. Fuxin nodded her head. Seeing that Suanan was in a hurry, she took a taxi and left. Fuxin then decided to drive to the side of the road to stop a carriage and return to the Liu family. She should not run into her brother at this late hour, or else he would be angry with her again. But as she walked to the side of the road, she saw a sports car pull up in front of her, and the passenger window rolled down. Seeing the man sitting inside, Fuxin's scalp went numb. She stood there, hesitating about whether or not she should run away. Get in, the man said indifferently, looking at Fuxin with cold eyes. Gu Ziming stood half naked in the private room, while the three masters in front of him smoked and drank, allowing him to stand by the side and enjoy the wind. He was so tired standing, and the three lords said they were going to play cards. Gu Ziming raised his head and looked at Gumo Cheng, who was in the middle, and asked softly, Second uncle, can I wear a set of clothes? After he finished dancing, he went to look for Heian and Fu Xiaoxin. Not only did he not see their figures, he even bumped into second uncle's lower body. What a tragedy. He had been carried here for almost half an hour. They were so relaxed that they did not care about the feeling of being in underpants at all. Don't you like stripping and dancing? Gumo Cheng said lightly. It's easier to stand here than to dance. How would I like that? Gu Ziming muttered. He was forced to keep his promise. Your Gu family's tastes are all so heavy. Xiaoyan interjected unafraid of death. He avoided Gumo Cheng's eyes and smiled. Ziming, you did a good job. It's very refreshing to dance with a mask and underwear on. I like it. I'll teach you if you like. Gu Ziming looked at Xiaoyan and laughed. Uncle Xiaoyan. He deliberately emphasized the word uncle. Indeed, when Xiaoyan's face fell, he hated being called uncle by Gu Ziming. The girlfriend he had recently found was only 20 years old, the same age as Gu Ziming. Second uncle. Gu Ziming looked at Gu Mocheng and explained, let me put my clothes on. It's weird to be standing here. Gu Mocheng looked at him but did not say a word. Gu Ziming felt that he was really unlucky. Last time, when he ran into second uncle's car, second uncle used a phone to call him back, causing him to be locked up by his grandfather. This time, Pappy knew that he must have hit him in the ass when he was dancing in his underpants in the bar. He was already so grown up, and the thought of being spanked made him feel utterly humiliated. I lost a bet, that's why I'm dressed like this. Gu Ziming said. He kept his promise and accepted his loss. Second uncle, you often teach me that one must be able to lose as a person. Gu Mocheng raised his head and looked at him, waiting for his explanation. Gu Ziming suddenly felt that it was all because of second uncle that he lost that race. Second uncle, it's all because of you. If I hadn't bumped into you during the race, I wouldn't have turned around and returned home and lost to Heian. Hearing the name, Heian, Gu Mocheng's face changed. It was the girl who gave him a thumbs up when he bumped into her last car, and similarly had the word Anne. Gu Mocheng felt that this Heian girl was mischievous and unbridled, and couldn't compare to his own little wife. What did you bet? Gu Mocheng asked. Gu Ziming did not immediately reply. He thought for a moment and slowly said, whoever loses will run naked. Hearing Gu Ziming's words, Xiaoyan and Han Longyi both started laughing, especially Xiaoyan, who started trembling from laughter. Run naked? Xiaoyan laughed so hard he couldn't even straighten his body. He looked at Gu Mocheng and said, your Gu family is too ruthless. Uncle Xiaoyan. Gu Ziming knew that when he told them about running naked, Xiaoyan and the others would make fun of him. Ziming, you made a bet with a girl to run naked? What a disgrace to your uncle. Xiaoyan stopped laughing and said, then pointed at Gu Mocheng and said, back then, your uncle never lost a match in the underground racetrack. Of course, he knew about his second uncle's glorious past. Going to the sports car was like learning from second uncle. Go on. Chapter 53. Gu Mocheng interrupted his conversation with Xiaoyan. I met Heian and the others when I came here today to play. Heian and the others said that they were in a good mood and didn't need me to run around naked. They told me to take off my clothes and dance here, as they were worried that others would recognize me. Once Gu Ziming finished speaking, Xiaoyan and Han Longyi burst out laughing again. Gu Mocheng, why is your nephew so sincere? It was because he was interested in that little girl, so he deliberately obeyed her. He had investigated Heian's background and knew that the one who had won the last match wasn't Heian. Since Gu Ziming did not win and neither did Heian, then there was no point in betting on victory. This Heian had obviously tricked Gu Ziming. Ziming, don't you feel that wearing a mask and dancing in shorts is more shameful? Even Han Longyi could not stand it any longer, and laughed. Will it? Gu Ziming did not understand. He was wearing a mask. There's nothing new about running naked. It's more interesting to dance in your underpants. Xiaoyan continued. He had seen many people running around naked, so how could it be interesting to dance in just underpants? Gu Mocheng, your nephew is heartless. You have to teach him well. Xiaoyan and Han Longyi agreed. They wanted Gu Mocheng to be so smart and powerful. How could he have such a foolish nephew? He was played around with, and still thought the other party was being nice to him. Gu Ziming was not happy with the two uncles ridiculing him. He did not think he was fooled. Only running naked would be shameful. Gu Mocheng extinguished the cigarette in his hand, stood up, and said, you guys get someone to take him back to Gu Mansion. You won't send him yourself? Han Longyi asked in surprise. I'm not free, Gu Mocheng replied indifferently, flicking off the smoke on his body, preparing to leave. Second uncle, it's fine. I can go back by myself. Gu Ziming did not want to trouble his second uncle. The moment he saw his second uncle's men sending him back to the clan, he knew he would definitely be beaten up again. The next time he came out to play, he had to investigate his second uncle's whereabouts. He absolutely could not run into him again. The rich nightlife is only starting, Gu Mocheng. Why are you in such a hurry to go back? Xiaoyan joked. What was Gu Mocheng going back for? How could Xiaoyan, who was so smart, not know? It's too boring to go back so early. Gu Mocheng turned his head, looked at the two of them, and said seriously, accompany my wife. Xiaoyan and Han Longyi both disdained Gu Mocheng's words. It's amazing to have a wife. You can marry one and try it out. Gu Mocheng replied to them with a light voice. Gu Ziming heard their conversation and looked toward Gu Mocheng. In the old house, he knew that his second uncle had married, and the bride was chosen by his grandfather. However, before he left the house, he heard his grandfather receive a phone call, saying that his second uncle had switched brides without permission, and that he was talking about a girl. Second uncle, today I heard grandfather receive a phone call, saying that you exchanged your wife without his permission. Yes, Gu Mocheng replied. Gu Mocheng was not surprised that his father knew about this. He had taken some men to the Su family to beat up Su Zihan, who was the granddaughter of the Jiang family. Naturally, the Jiang family knew about the beating, and old Mistress Jiang definitely called his father. Even so, Gumo Cheng wasn't afraid and didn't feel that he was wrong in any way. Of course, his wife had to be protected. He then turned and said to Gu Ziming, who was at the side, "Put on your clothes and go back." With that, he opened the door and left. Suanan hurriedly returned to the Gu household. When she entered the door, she saw the housekeeper, Uncle Chen, and his dog, Whitey, in front of her. Sometimes, when Suanan went out to play, she would sneak away. Other times, she would tell Uncle Chen that she was going out because she had something to do. As a butler, Uncle Chen would not ask Suanan where she was going. If Gu Mo Cheng did not ask, he would not say much. "Madam is back." "Yes," Suanan smiled and replied as Whitey, whom Uncle Chen was leading, immediately pounced toward her. From the moment Whitey had helped her bite Zhang Shengshu, Suanan had treated it as her savior. She patted Whitey's head. "Whitey, I'm going to take a bath first." Otherwise, when Gu Mo Cheng returned, he would definitely despise her due to the stench on her body. She went upstairs. When Whitey saw her go, it wailed in dissatisfaction. Suanan washed herself clean and then sat on the bed, playing with her cell phone while waiting for Gu Mo Cheng to return. Fuxin also reached home, so she sent a message to Suanan. "I have to tell you about Gu Mo Cheng and his relationship." She remembered that back in the bar, Fuxin had insisted that Gu Mo Cheng and Xiao Yan had an affair. After reading this article, Suanan had to admit that what Fuxin said seemed to be true. For example, the article said that Gu Mo Cheng's watch was the same as Xiao Yan's. The photo that was matched with the scroll was of Gu Mo Cheng's hand and Xiao Yan's face. All these years, Gu Mo Cheng kept a low profile. Even if his face was captured in photos, they would still be deleted. But with just one hand, Suanan recognized that it was Gu Mo Cheng's, and the watch he was wearing was also his. This watch was custom-made. If there was no special relationship, why would they order identical watches? Not just the watches, but the shoes and shirts. They had the same ones. Therefore, whether it was the media or the spectators, they all had a reason to suspect that Gu Mo Cheng had been defending Xiao Yan for so many years. As Suanan watched, she also felt that it was true. The current article was really well written. Could Gu Mo Cheng be bisexual? Suanan shook her head. She could not watch anymore. Otherwise, she would be brainwashed by Xiao Xin. She was closing the article when she heard the sound of a car downstairs. Gu Mo Cheng was back. Gu Mo Cheng pushed open the door and entered. Seeing the person on the bed, the empty space in his heart instantly filled up. In the past, he didn't like going home. His big house was empty except for him. He had bought this villa for that person. He wanted to give her a home, a family. So all these years, he'd rather be out drinking, staying at a company or a hotel, than coming back to an empty house. Recently, he had come back more often. He liked having someone by his side to accompany him, and that person was his wife. She felt uncomfortable being looked at by Gu Mo Cheng. She thought to herself, why isn't he taking a bath yet? She really couldn't pretend to be asleep, so she could only turn around and pretend that Gu Mo Cheng had woken her up. She rubbed her eyes, and upon seeing Gu Mo Cheng, she said, "Hubby, you're back." "Yes," Gu Mo Cheng responded, and did not ask when Suanan had returned. As long as he asked Uncle Chen when Suanan had come back, Suanan's lies would be exposed. "I've waited for you for a long time. Seeing that you weren't here, I went to sleep first." Speaking of lies, Suanan was usually calm and collected, but now, in front of Gu Mo Cheng, she felt guilty. Chapter 54. What did you buy? Gu Mo Cheng asked. Suanan did not go shopping. She merely went to the most famous gold-selling cave in the name of shopping with Fuxin. "Nope," she said, lowering her head. Gu Mo Cheng did not ask where she was going to go. Hearing that Suanan said she didn't buy anything, and thinking back to when she was beaten up in the Su family and drugged, Gu Mo Cheng guessed that she had suffered a lot after saving money on normal occasions. "If you want to buy something, buy it. You don't have to save money for me." Of course, Suanan knew that once Gu Mo Cheng took action, one black card would mean he was rich. Who knew how many women outside would not be able to hug Gu Mo Cheng's legs? Yes, Suanan nodded obediently. She raised her smile and tried to curry favor with him. "Hubby, you're so nice." Gu Mo Cheng enjoyed her sweet words very much. Seeing her smile, Gu Mo Cheng's mood improved a lot. His gaze looked down and landed in front of Suanan. The pajamas she wore were slightly pulled apart at the collar. Gu Mo Cheng stood on the ground and looked down to see the snow-white skin underneath. In front of his own wife, Gu Mo Cheng did not restrain his thoughts at all. He leaned down and kissed Suanan's lips, the room filling with an ambiguous atmosphere. "Come on, I'll treat you today. You can buy anything you want." In the mall, Suanan took out the black card that Gu Mo Cheng gave her and said straightforwardly, "Black card?" Fuxin exclaimed as she took the card in Suanan's hand and carefully examined it. "There is no limit to the black card." "Yes," Suanan smiled and nodded. "It was given by Gu Mo Cheng." "Yes, Suanan, you sold yourself at a good price." Fuxin fondled the card in her hand lovingly. Not only was Gu Mo Cheng handsome, but he was also rich. "Anan, do you want to know if Gu Mo Cheng still has a wife?" Even if Gu Mo Cheng wasn't good in that aspect, he might still like a guy. Suanan despised Fuxin. There was no limit to the number of black cards, and there was no limit to the number of times Fuxin could pay. Holding Gumo Cheng's card, Su Anan and Fu Xin happily strolled around the streets. They normally did not have much pocket money, so after coming to the mall to try out clothes, they usually just looked at Taobao. But this time, the two of them swiped as much as they could, and were very happy. After swiping someone else's card, Su Anan felt that she couldn't just focus on buying clothes for herself. She had to buy a few for Gumo Cheng as well. Entering the clothing store, Su Anan felt the smooth fabric of the men's suit in her hands. For some reason, she recalled the feeling of Gumo Cheng's hands on her back last night when he was pressing down on her. Anan. Fu Xin looked at Su Anan with a weird smile as she looked at a suit. What was even funnier was that Su Anan's face was stuck on the man's suit, looking extremely flirtatious and coquettish. She could not watch anymore and had no choice but to call Su Anan. Only after calling out 3 times did Su Anan regain her senses. Anan, you were in heat just now. Fu Xin's words revealed what Su Anan was thinking, causing Su Anan to feel embarrassed. What are you talking about? Fu Xin replied. Isn't it? You were almost drooling on that suit. To be honest, are you thinking about that wild man? Su Anan glared at her but did not reply. She continued to size up the suit in her hands. This outfit, Gumo Cheng would definitely look good in it. Gumo Cheng? Fu Xin whispered 3 words into Su Anan's ear. Su Anan's face slightly flushed and she said stubbornly, no way. Fu Xin laughed. Su Anan's anxiousness had exposed her own thoughts. It must be. A guy and you like him so much. Fu Xin said in disdain. However, I support you in taking Gumo Cheng, right? For such a good-looking man to fall in love with another man is truly a waste of heaven's gift. Su Anan was speechless. How could such a normal man, like Gumo Cheng, become someone who liked men in Fu Xin's mind? They even had to pair Gumo Cheng and Xiaoyan up. Su Anan had seen it before. A playboy like Xiaoyan could not even compare to Gumo Cheng's little finger. I won't say anymore. Help my brother pick out some clothes. In any case, I'm not going to swipe Gumo Cheng's card. Fu Xin said. Su Anan looked at the suits hanging, thinking that everything looked good. Which one do you want? Su Anan stood at the door and looked outside. She was curious about what Fu Xin was looking at. Walking in front of Fu Xin, she heard her scolding, bitch. Huh? Su Anan followed Fu Xin's line of sight and saw Su Zihan wearing a mask as she brought Mu Jinyu to the women's clothing store. She had received Mu Jinyu's call yesterday morning, and today she rarely came out to shop, yet she met them again. Oh, she was so annoyed, so annoyed. This pair of trashy people, should she fight or not? When she looked over, Su Zihan saw her as well. Fu Xin, which looks good? Su Anan did not want to bother with them. Going up to greet them would definitely be something strenuous. Do you want to buy them all? Fu Xin turned around and discussed the beautiful suit with Su Anan. This color suits my brother. She pointed to the blue suit in Su Anan's hand and asked the shop assistant to take the size that would fit Lu Heng. Su Zihan had also seen Su Anan and the others. Ever since she was young, no one had ever hit her like this. Su Hua spoiled her and protected her. She was the only one who bullied others. She had never been beaten up so miserably before. All of this was still something that Su Anan had given her. She deserved to be slapped. She deserved to be drugged and sent to Jiang Shengshu's bed and served by Su Anan. Thinking about how she was beaten up by Gumo Cheng and had to wear a mask when she went out, Su Zihan felt hatred in her heart. Seeing Su Anan shopping for clothes, she couldn't help but clench her teeth. Brother Jinyu, let's go. She intentionally looked towards Su Anan's direction and fearfully held Mu Jinyu's arm, whispering. Mu Jinyu followed Su Zihan's line of sight and saw Su Anan. Because he saw Su Zihan's red and swollen face, Su Anan's brimming smile instantly became bigger and brighter in his eyes. Then he thought of the voices of Su Anan and the man on the phone and how she had called Su Anan. Other than the first person who answered, the others said that they could not get through. Su Anan actually did not answer his call. Did she not know that she did something wrong? His face immediately darkened, and when he turned to look at the timid Su Zihan, his anger rose. Su Anan? Mu Jinyu walked quickly towards Su Anan. The corners of his lips raised into a cold smile as he followed her. Su Anan and Fu Xin looked at Mu Jinyu and Su Zihan, who were walking towards them aggressively, and even if they wanted to leave, they could not. He's just looking for a beating, Fu Xin said in disdain. If it wasn't for the fact that Su Rochu was in the Su family, how could Su Zihan be a match for Su Anan? Su Anan, why did you hang up? And where did you go that night? Mu Jinyu went forward and asked, not to question the injury on Su Zihan's face, but to ask whose car Su Anan had gotten into that night. Chapter 55. Su Anan really did not want to bother with them, but since they had already come looking for her, she would naturally be easily bullied. Now that she had a great backer, Su Hua would not use his sister to threaten her. What night? Su Anan replied as she laughed coldly. Where did I go? Didn't Brother Jinyu see that? On the night of the Su family's banquet, she had boarded the carriage with Gumo Cheng, who had called her. Only after looking through the records did Su Anan remember this number. She didn't think anything was wrong. When Mu Jinyu carried her on his back with Su Zihan, she had never thought of eating the grass back. Unless her brain was damaged and she had the gene to find trouble in her bones. Anan, weren't you like this before? Fu Xin, who was at the side, could not bear to see Mu Jinyu acting like Su Anan had betrayed him and could not stand it any longer. So she scolded, "Slut girl, scum." "Fuxin, what are you scolding?" Suzian said to Fuxin unhappily. Just like Suanan, what was Fuxin supposed to be? She was just a burden because her mother had married into the Lu family, and she actually thought that she was some treasure of the Lu family. Although they were close relatives, did they have a younger brother like Lu Heng? "Brother Jinyu, you saw it right? This is how Suanan scolded us at home," Suzian said to Mu Jinyu, feeling wronged. Suanan and Fuxin looked at each other. The one who was scolding them was Fuxin, yet she had to drag Suanan into this. "Anan, Brother Jinyu and I are sincere." Suzihan acted as if she wanted to cry, as if she wanted to say something about true love in front of Mu Jinyu. The White Lotus technique was useless on Suanan. Before Suzihan could finish speaking, Suanan took the initiative to accept it. "Brother Jinyu, you said that you would take care of me for the rest of my life." This move was a preemptive one. Wasn't Suzihan feeling wronged? She felt even more wronged than Suzihan. Saying that, Suanan squeezed out a few tears from her eyes as she looked at Mu Jinyu with watery eyes. "Why did I become like this? Brother Jinyu, don't you know best? Why did you change your heart? Why did you fall in love with Sister Zihan? I didn't do anything wrong, so why did you abandon me?" "Brother Jinyu, if you hadn't changed your mind, how would I?" After saying a few words, Mu Jinyu felt uncomfortable listening to them and started to blame himself. Suanan and Fuxin watched in a daze. This Mu Jinyu didn't mind that Suzihan had been with another man, wanting to marry Suzihan and still raise someone outside. That was truly disgusting. "Anan, apologize to Zihan. From today onwards, don't quarrel with her anymore," Mu Jinyu said seriously. Suanan was extremely glad that Suzihan had taken this trash man away. Otherwise, she would be miserable for the rest of her life. "Brother Jinyu, forget it. It's fine if An doesn't want to apologize to me," Suzihan said. Seeing that Suanan's face had changed and she was unwilling to apologize, Suanan did not want to play with Suzihan anymore. She was not interested. Since Mu Jinyu wanted to help Suzihan vent her anger, what was there for her to be afraid of? "Let's go, Shaoxin. Continue swiping your card to buy clothes," Suanan said. Seeing Suanan leave, how could Suzihan and Mu Jinyu let her go? "Brother Jinyu, forget it. And Anne has someone backing her up. There's no need for her to apologize to me. You have suffered," Suzihan said to Mu Jinyu. Suzihan reminded Mu Jinyu about the relationship between Suanan and the other man. "An, Brother Jinyu is also worried about you. Brother Jinyu doesn't care about the relationship between you and the man in the car. Aren't you going to apologize to Brother Jinyu?" "A man in the car?" Hearing that, Fuxin turned to look at Suanan. What was the situation? Where did this man come from? Was the car shaking? Once Suzihan reminded him, Mu Jinyu thought about the matter of Suanan being with an old man and the car shaking. He actually cared a lot about it in his heart, but he kept thinking about Suanan's beautiful face and their past. He thought that Anan did it for him, and he had the responsibility of teaching and taking care of her. "Anan, stop," Mu Jinyu said with a gloomy face. "What's with your attitude? Zihan will not fuss about it with you, and I do not intend to pursue the past either. What else do you want? Apologize." Mu Jinyu saw that Suanan was about to leave without even looking back and shouted angrily. Suanan's mood was terrible. She had been completely messed up by the two of them. In front of Gumo Cheng, she was just a white rabbit, but in reality, she had a bad temper. And Anne was right. If it wasn't for his change of heart, if he hadn't been with Zihan, she wouldn't have found a man 10 years older. He must have hurt her. "Anan, you can't degrade yourself either," Wu Jinyu said in a gentle voice. "I'm very sad that you did this. No matter what, you have to protect yourself well." Sad? Suanan felt disdain in her heart. He, Wu Jinyu, couldn't stand her being with another man, right? If Mu Jinyu had truly cherished her, how could he have been with Suzihan for 2 years? The scene changed very quickly, and when Suzihan saw it, she became anxious. She immediately pulled on Mu Jinyu's sleeve and said weakly, "Brother Jinyu, my face suddenly hurts." This was a disguised reminder to Mu Jinyu that her face had been beaten by Suanan's man, and that she had already been with another man. Mu Jinyu looked at the tear-filled Suzihan beside him, then at Suanan, who was holding back tears in the corner of her eyes, and said, "Anan, apologize to Zihan. You have to apologize for slapping her in the face." Mu Jinyu felt that the two sisters had done this for him, so he had to come out and uphold justice. "Apologize?" Suanan innocently blinked her eyes. It wasn't she who had hit Suzihan, it was Gumo Cheng's person. "No matter what, your sisters, don't bother about the past anymore." "How can that be?" Hearing that, Suzihan panicked and spoke with a stern voice. After she finished speaking, she thought about Mu Jinyu beside her and endured it. Just an apology and that would be it. What did Mu Jinyu mean? That he would help her vent her anger, that he would marry her. What did he count as now? Brother Jinyu. With tears in her eyes, she pulled Mu Jinyu's sleeve, causing Mu Jinyu to turn and look at her. Zihan wore a mask, revealing a pair of red and teary eyes. "Zihan, and Anne is my little sister. Let's just forget about the past." "I'm sorry you two got into this." She really wanted to ask Mu Jinyu loudly, what did he mean? Did he not see her own face hurt and suddenly change his mind to fall in love with Suanan again? Did he not know that Suanan had already been with another man? And he still wanted her? All right. She was angry. so angry that her nails dug into her palms. If not for Jiang Mei's explanation, she would have definitely quarreled with him. Brother Jinyu, Zihan will listen to you, no matter what you say. Mu Jinyu enjoyed Su Zihan's obedience very much. He lowered his head and pulled the aggrieved Su Zihan into his embrace, coaxing, Zihan, you're the best.